Hello and welcome to Live and Ready for You. And I'm your host, Helen Dunnett. So we are Ready for You. It's a network of international coaches and trainers who help organizations improve their people management and performance, their sales, marketing. We're going to be talking about intercultural today. We also help with well-being. So each month, we're going to be talking to one of our coaches about a topic that they love. And their mission is to give us some practical tips at the end of that session that we can walk away with and put into action straight away. So today we're going to be talking to Alicia. But before I do, Alive is nothing without you wonderful people who are watching. So thank you for creating the time to be here. So I would love that you put a hello in the chat. I'm going to be following it from here. So let me have a look to see if anyone is saying anything. So, right, yeah, so say hi and tell me where you are in the world right now. I'm in Belgium. Really hoping my internet doesn't break down in the process. So while you're saying hi, I will bring in Alicia.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, welcome to your little virtual box.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be with you and with everyone. So hello, everyone. Thank you for having me, Helen. I'm very happy.
Oh, it's great. And we've got hellos coming in, which is great. Hello,
Right.
Natalie. Hello, Michelle. So I'm going to try and say your family name. Alicia Kreijger?
Yeah, it's getting better. I've
been practicing all week. It's like Chinese whispers. It's starting to change. So you are an intercultural coach.
I am, definitely. Intercultural coach and trainer, by the way.
And trainer. Okay. First of all, actually, where are you in the world?
I am in Amsterdam, so in the Netherlands, but originally I'm French.
Okay.
I've been living here for quite a while now, 17 years, I think, altogether. So quite a bit of time.
Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay. So what drove you to become an intercultural coach and trainer?
Maybe I can give a little bit of understanding of how I see my work or how I understand it, and then I'll tell you more about how I got there and what brought me there. Is that an idea? Just to give a little bit of a definition of what I do. Basically, what I do as an intercultural trainer, as coach, is to help people from different cultures, first of all, to understand each other better, to appreciate each other more. And ultimately, what we are trying to do together is to build a better and more positive work relationship. So this is what, and how I got there, it was a long journey because I had another life before being a trainer, and I was for 10 years a marketing and communication project manager. I was a French girl. Very often, I was in charge of, the relationship with the different countries, the different teams abroad. And I could see that very often there were, frictions, misunderstandings, frustrations. And I thought, we are wasting so much time and energy there. So what could we do about that? And this is how I actually started to get into that topics.
Wow.
And got me
It's got you. Yeah. I just love the stories that we all have that, that take us to become, that we take to become coaches or trainers. It's always a winding path.
Yeah.
So we are going to be talking about how to manage your boss from a different culture. What was important about having that as a topic?
How we came up with that topic was also kind of a reflection about different things. The first one was this, this statistic that has been around for a while, that 75% of employees leave a boss and not a company.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy when you think about it. The second thing is almost cliche, but it's so true. We are working in more and more international organizations, so where we have to deal with managers from different cultures, not only from different country cultures, but also, from different disciplines, because more and more the teams are, transverse and they are different disciplines working together. So how do we deal with that? And the other thing, which is also very important to me, is that, a lot of courses, trainings focus on, managers. And of course, it's really important as a manager to be able to manage your team. This is, this is key. But first of all, we are not all managers. And even if we are, we need to be able to also manage up, meaning that we need to be able to manage our boss to make sure that our, your working balance or your well-being at work is met. So this was all for those reasons that we thought, hey, how can I, manage my boss from a different culture to make sure that I get this, this well-being at work, and that I'm not going to be that next person who is going to leave the company because of my manager. So that was the idea behind it.
So the underline that I hear here is it's really this personal leadership, taking personal responsibility.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Rather than pointing the finger going, you. Okay. So perhaps we should start with, from the very top, what is culture?
That's a good question to start with, of course. And culture, there are many definitions, more or less complex. But there is one that I like that I've heard recently in a training that I took, and I think it sums up things quite nicely. Culture is a group habit driven by values and needs. Pretty short, pretty simple. But when you hear that, Helen, that's make it understandable for you.
Yeah. I'm just saying a group habit. Say that again. A group habit.
Group habits driven by values and needs.
Driven by values and needs.
Can you think about, maybe culture you have?
Can you give me a bit more to that? Like habit and needs. Habits and needs. So it's kind of it's the rituals. Is it like the rituals of a company? Are the like
what the rituals are part of it, definitely. So
okay, so
this is what you see, and the rituals is really what you see. So this is
well, I've got one for you. So when I came to Belgium, it blew me away when I heard that in the European institutions they meet for coffee, morning coffee, that they actually leave their desk, they leave the floor, and they go down to the cafeteria, and they all have a coffee together at like 10:30. I mean, it's like, as a Brit coming, you just don't do that. You got to work. So I that blew me away. But I think they still do it. It's part of the ritual.
Yeah, that's definitely a very interesting ritual, and probably very surprising to someone who just arrives. And can I ask you then, because what we said is that our culture is a group habit. So now you just described the habit, but if you try to ask yourself, so what could be, the values and the needs that are, underlying this surprising habit or behavior? What could that be? What do you think?
Okay, so I'm going to have to put aside my British, outrage and say the needs. So I guess if I've got, what have we got? It's European. It's a lot of different people. I mean, I guess if you're coming from Sweden and you're coming from Germany, and it's a great way of, rather than sitting in your, shoebox of an office, it's a great way of getting you to connect with other people. I guess it's a great way of getting you out of your office and forming informal networks, bringing people down to a common area. I guess you could get some romances going at the same time.
So probably something like, creating relationships or building relationships together.
Maybe it's building relationships and feeling part of a common thing. That we're much. We're not just our topic. There's a huge army of us from different countries.
So that's probably that were probably the values. That's a great example. Thank you for this one. Also because it's not country based. It's just really organization based. So that's really interesting. So probably indeed the values and the need at the beginning were to create some relationship between all those people coming from different countries, and the habit state. And maybe it's still relevant nowadays. Maybe it isn't, but it has become part of the culture. And as an outsider or as a newcomer, it can be very surprising, right? So this is exactly what we call culture, right?
Okay.
And
Okay. So where do we start? I mean, with managing our boss from a different culture.
Yeah, that of course there is much to say, but we have little time. So what would be nice to do is to have a couple of themes, or at least a couple of beliefs that we need to overcome, that many people can hold, and see how we can overcome them. And I think the very first one, it's directly related to what we just discussed, is that to believe that, we can predict somebody's behavior based on his country of origin or based on his nationality. So, okay, my boss is German, so he's going to be really process oriented. And we tend to think that we don't do that. But unfortunately, we have this tendency, to try to put people into boxes because it makes it so much easier. And even if people are, not really fitting the box, we are still trying to put them in the box.
Yeah.
And we don't want to do that because, of course, it's really limited. And simply because culture is everywhere. So it's not because, you come from England that England is your only culture. We have all, many layers of culture that have actually contributed to influences us. So if you think about yourself, okay, you come from the UK. Is there any other, culture or cultural group you belong to, that are, influenced yourself? If you think about that.
Okay, I don't know if I'm going to get it right, but I'll throw things out at you, and you tell me if this is culture or not. So, I grew up in a middle-class family. I grew up with 3 brothers, and so I feel a part of my culture is being a tomboy. I don't know if that, the ritual of I'm a half boy, always have been.
As long as, it's a group habit, then.
Yeah, oh gosh, totally, yeah. Lots of fighting. Another one would be, I'm married to an Australian, so there's definitely habits and rituals. A lot of barbecuing at our house.
Exactly.
And I tell you what, and Australia is funny enough because they talk about being, that's not Australian. They limit them, or they control themselves by this statement, that's Australian or that's not Australian. It's probably a ritual of some sort. That's a few. I don't want to take up too much time.
No, but I really like what you just said because, your husband is Australian. You have not lived in Australia, have you?
No.
Nope. But still, I mean, it's your husband. So he is also probably, sharing some cultural traits, maybe some cultural values, because it's somebody you love and you're probably picking up something from them too. So he's also influencing you. So that, there are many different ways that we, pick up some of the cultural aspect of the different groups we belong to. And so just to come back to this belief that we could have that we can predict people based on their country culture, there is something I want to mention. There is a recent study that has been published in 2016. Well, it's not super recent, but it's still that shows that you actually have more value differences within a country than between countries.
What?
Which is pretty crazy when you think about it. So if you take, for instance, a Brazilian electrical engineer, he's probably going to have more in common with a German electrical engineer than with a Brazilian farmer. So let's be very aware of that and very aware of the fact that, okay, there is a group culture, there is a country culture, and then probably when people get together in their country, they will behave according to the cultural norm of that country. But individually, we have many layers that we need to consider. So that's the first belief.
So what am I supposed to do about that then? So how do I stop seeing my boss as a culture, as a nationality, in fact?
Yeah, most simply is trying to get that person individually. So not only looking at him as a culture or as being part of the cultural group, but on an individual level, really trying to get to know that person. That's observing, asking questions to really get to go under this surface and try to see, hey, what are really the values, the belief of this person, his drivers. And it might very well be behaving in a certain way in a cultural group where he needs to adapt to a certain norm. So maybe your French boss in a French organization in a French country will behave in a very French way. So being, I don't know, hierarchical or whatever you want. But on an individual level, when you get to know that person, maybe you're going to realize, hey, actually, this person really wants to be, one of the guy, and he is very egalitarian. And this is what I need to connect to and not to what he's showing in the group.
Okay.
So,
Okay. I'm just going to pause you there. There's a few people making comments and stuff, which is great. Sonal is wanting to see that study. So maybe we can put that in the links afterwards.
yeah, we can
Yep.
definitely.
Okay, we'll make a note of that.
Yeah.
And it was just a funny one. Natalie is saying that before the confinement, morning coffee was indeed still a habit. So thanks, Natalie, for that heads up. 21 years on, and it's still strong. That's awesome. Thanks. It's great to see the chat. I am trying to focus on Alicia at the same time, so I'm doing both. So Alicia, okay, so I need to check in and be more curious with my boss. Isn't that common sense?
Yeah, in a way, it could sound a bit like common sense. We have to be very careful with common sense because quite often we rely on that. This is how we function because it's so convenient, so easy, and doesn't cost too much energy.
Can I not? Am I not allowed to use my common sense?
We're all, and we can't do any other way. But the issue is that your common sense is not mine. So if you rely on your common sense, there are good chances that it might, backfire at some time. So just to, and we all have this idea that we are trying to do our best, and we do. But sometimes it's so, it's so ingrained that we have to be very careful. So I'd like to give an example of what I see very often here in the Netherlands, which is for me the typical example of relying on your common sense. Not to criticize anything because it's just the way it is and it happens everywhere. And I will talk about the Netherlands because this is the country I'm based in. So I have many examples related to the Dutch culture. Honesty and transparency are, a key cultural value in the Netherlands.
Absolutely.
So it's really important. And in organization, most managers would expect, I would say, conforming to the Dutch culture and those values of transparency and honesty, that if you have an issue, if you disagree, if you disapprove, you will speak up. So you will transparently and honestly say so. And this is common sense.
Yes, I get it. I see where you're going. Okay.
The issue is that for many people coming from other backgrounds, other cultures, it isn't at all. The other way around. Speaking up when you disagree or when you disapprove of something, or giving, what we call constructive feedback.
Yeah.
Felt of something which is not done to your manager. This is something that might make you feel uncomfortable, make your manager feel uncomfortable. So for you, common sense is just the opposite. It's just not speaking up. And this is where we see situations, and I've seen that many times, where a Dutch manager will just think, common sense, nobody is speaking up, nobody complains, so everything is fine. Whereas, on the surface, people are just, struggling with things or disapproving, whatever. So recently in a training I had, there was really interesting, and a Portuguese participant, and for who common sense was, really not confronting his manager. And he gave to himself the assignment from the next session to try that, to give constructive feedback, to speak up and say what he was actually thinking, but had never dared to share openly, transparently with his manager. And he was absolutely amazed of the result. He said, it was very welcome. And he felt that these little tiny things actually changed already the relationship he had with his manager. So it was really interesting.
So how do you do that then? I mean, I'm just thinking, if you are Portuguese, what happened in the process that the Portuguese person made a switch? They stopped using their common sense.
Now, actually, what you need to do is try that again, and it's pretty much related to what we just said, is not relying to a common sense, not to treat your manager the way you think he should be treated.
Okay.
To your common sense, really observing what is it, how does he really want to be treated.
Okay. So, and it's about his values as well, I guess, so this is all going back to the culture and his needs. So what are his drivers?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay. So I need to be way more curious, step one, and I need to really kind of put my common sense to one side. there's a lot of self-awareness, right? To be able to do that, to be, take a step back.
Definitely, yeah. And I'm very happy you make that bridge. Actually, the self-awareness, because we have been talking a lot about the manager and how we can take into account his own needs. We would say. But the next belief that we can have is that we can have very good relationship with people, with our manager, with anyone, without knowing what we really want, what we really need, and who we really are. And the issue with that is that you tend to either to over adapt to a manager because you don't know what is really important for you, and at some point, you're gonna collapse. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Or the other way around, you can over resist because for the same reason you don't know what is really important for you. So it's really important, to dig into your own, your own personality, your own needs, your own values. What is it that is really important for me? What is it that I'm not ready to negotiate at all? What is it that I can negotiate? So it's about, knowing yourself.
Wow.
And it's easy.
So how would somebody go about doing that? I mean, I can think of ideas myself, and it's actually helping people identify their true values is something I do in my coaching, actually. It's that sort of let's get some foundations in place. But how do you do it as an intercultural coach and trainer?
What I do, that the good thing about today is that there are many tools that have been developed. And personally, I use one which is an absolutely great approach. It's called the Global Disc. So not the disc, the Global Disc. And it's a solution that has been developed by ICQ Global, the company, and Chabat Thought. And this tool is absolutely amazing because it gives you first a very detailed overview of your behavior and your communication styles. But what it does, it goes much deeper. It gives you really an understanding of your values and your driver. What is it that is really important for you? So it's you answer a couple of questions and then you get a very detailed report where you can see all that. And most interestingly, it also gives you an idea, a very clear idea of what kind of cultural environments is preferred to you. So you can see, hey, this is the type of environment where I would be naturally, in my comfort zone, naturally at ease. And then it's pretty amazing, yeah. And you can see also what are the environment where I need to stretch myself, and you understand why. So this is the most interesting part.
Oh my God, that's so cool. I would so love to do that with you at some point.
Yeah.
No, really, yeah. I would be just awesome.
I'd love to.
I love all these different things, these different ones. So, but there's also a lot of free stuff online as well, right? That can help you get going. And maybe what I'll do afterwards is put some links in. I'll put it to the Global Disc, but also to some free personality and behavior tests that you can do.
The good thing, I'll just repeat, because this is the interesting part of the Global Disc, is that, of course, it gives you, personality, behavior, etc. But it goes deeper. It goes about, your values. And the values, when we talk about culture, this is where it clashes. This is when we have conflict of values.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because actually that's exactly, there we go. Oh, Casper Toth. That's what he is. Look at him. Yeah. He's ahead of the game there. So I just want to.
He is the one who developed the Global Disc. So.
Oh, did he? Okay. Yeah. There we go. So, right. So where have we got to? We have got to get to know ourselves better. And, but we still haven't, Alicia, we still got a manager that we need to, to manage him. And perhaps, what are the tensions starting to build between the two of you? How do we get work done?
Yeah, that's ultimately the very practical but very important question. Very often what happens and what we tend to do when we don't agree about something. Just simple example: your manager is the sales manager, and from his sales culture, he is very much driven by taking risks. So he's ready to promise everything to the client, and we'll see afterwards if we can handle it. And then you are in this team and you're a project manager, you have your project manager culture, really risk averse. You want to make sure that everything is planned, can be delivered and prepared beforehand. And, how do we deal with that? So you can try to convince him. And this is basically what we tend to do. We tend to try to prove that we are right and that we have the best way of doing things, that our way is the best way. The problem with that is that generally it results in resistance. And also that in this kind of conversation, there is a winner and there is a loser. If you have convinced him, then okay, you have won the conversation, but probably he doesn't feel that good about, losing the conversation. So what we do ultimately is to move this conversation from what I would almost call a debate or trying to,
it's a fight, isn't it? Really, I mean, it's a battle of who's going to win. I have to say, I'm guilty. Yeah. I'm guilty, and that you just mentioning that, I can think of many conversations that I have had when it's been, I will win this conversation, didn't win.
Yeah, and probably you didn't, and the other person.
Oh, we neither. Oh, yeah. Actually, when you think about it, no one. I don't think either of us won, because neither side agreed with the other one. Even if somebody won, it was still like, oh God, take it.
Yeah. So I mean, did you get ahead? Not really, probably.
No.
You didn't get along. You didn't get ahead. So I think that's basically what we want is try to to move from this not fight mode, but this argument or debate mode to try to see, hey, can we try to focus on the common goal or the common ground and try to understand what is our respective perceptions and perspectives on the matter. And this might sound a little bit theoretical, but I'd like to give a personal example. That's and then we have to hurry because almost time.
That's okay. We're good. 30, 35. It's cool. Okay. It's all right.
So a personal example about this is that I work with a Turkish boss who is very what we call polychronic. So he in his relationship with time, so he would do many things at the same time. There's a meeting, he called at the same time, he talked to another person who is there. So, and starting many things, and also planning is not really a priority. So things will happen at the last minute.
He sounds fun.
Yeah, but it's also part of the cultural norm back in Turkey. So, and on my side, I am a pretty linear person. So very much one thing at a time, one thing after the other. Not very the type of multitasker. Really, really linear. I like to finish one thing before I start another. So in our work relationship, despite the fact that we appreciate each other, we had this moment of tension where I was like, I can't do things when I get them last minute because I can't prepare, I don't feel comfortable, and ultimately the performance or the delivery is just hindered. So I could have tried, to convince him, hey, my way of doing things, one thing at a time, and I start something, I plan. It's so much, much more effective. Why don't we work that way? The thing is that it's not true. It's true for me, but it's not true for everyone, and nothing proves that it's more effective. And probably would have, there again, the conversation would have not gone anywhere. So what I did was trying to explain, hey, I am a linear person, so I need to prepare. I need to have planning. I don't like last minute. And most importantly, I focused on our common goal, which was, effective delivery of trainings and satisfied clients. And we had this conversation. We listened to each other, and he also explained, why he was doing things the way he was. And ultimately, we agreed that, if that was what was needed for us to have this good delivery and good performance was to make sure that there was more planning on his side, then he would do it as a good leader. And he changed his way of planning for me. So, and I'm pretty sure that I would never have, obtained the same results if I told him my way of doing things linearly is so much better and so much more efficient.
Yeah, because he'd been frustrated with you, going, yeah, but we need, we need that flexibility, and you got to roll with the punches. And so if I just kind of recap that one, so basically, as the direct report, it was really about having a conversation. So the starting point was, look, I really, what are we trying to achieve here? Is that the starting point of the conversation with your boss? Like to get the clarity on where are we going, and you're going, okay, so we want great performance. Well, so for me to have great performance, or to deliver you great performance or great trainings, I need order. And I'm seeing that, order is not a priority. So it was really, as the direct report, you're really just putting out there your point of view of what you need.
Yeah, my needs, exactly. And
Okay.
as you said, my needs, but also trying to understand his perception of things.
Okay.
And finally, or not finally, but as you said, initially, trying to see where are we going together. So what is our common goal? So
yeah, take it out of take it away from you and I, and
exactly.
And what's better. It's like, well, what's the point of all of this in the first place? Okay. Wow. Okay, so I'm just going to try and recap all of that. So the first one was people aren't their culture that they're working in or living in, and particularly not necessarily their nationality. So it's really about being curious, right? About their needs and their values. The second one was around, don't use your common sense, or be careful of common sense. And it's, so with that one, again, it's really about being clear about his values, his needs. So that was a real sort of focus on him or her. But then to be able to do that well, and to have the space, in fact, to listen to your boss your boss, and have her needs on the table in front of you, you actually need to know yourself first, right? So it's really about doing more work on self. And we're going to, put some links in on how to do that. So what are your needs? And that's really important for me, what I heard was putting out boundaries. Like, this is acceptable, this is in, and this is out kind of behavior. All right. And then the last one was don't try and get into the convincing. Really shift that fight conversation to, what are we both trying to get to? What are we both trying to, and within that, to better understand what are both of our needs? Because also, you probably have to be a little bit flexible, and stop being so rigid. Would that be
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, so there is a sort of like, how can we both come together to achieve this one goal?
Yeah.
Cool.
In summary, and so I'm happy to see that
I was listening.
Yeah, you were listening. Fantastic. Oh, great.
Alicia, I'm just going to quickly look to see if there's any. I know we're a few minutes over, but to see any. There's no particular questions, which is great. There's some lovely comments coming in. So, I'm going to wrap this up. But before we go, I think, so a big thank you to you. I really appreciate it. It's been really good. So I love the fact that they are super practical. How can people, if they want to carry on the conversation, how can people get in contact with you?
I think there are two main options. The first one is, to comment on the page of the events, Live and Ready for You. And the other way is simply to, connect with me on LinkedIn. I think that's, we're on LinkedIn, so why not simply
okay.
connect.
There's the spelling of your glorious Dutch name.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
In touch with people who, have questions or comments or want to share ideas on the topic. That would be fantastic.
Okay. So that's it. Well, so it's as we wrap up, we will be exploring a common challenge every month. So it's the last Friday of every month at 12:15. So you've got some time to come back from your meeting or end the Zoom meeting that you're on and join us at 12:15, the last Friday of every month. And we'll be tackling a common challenge that you have at work. So the other thing you could also do is you could add a challenge to our LinkedIn page. So if you joined We Are Ready for You on LinkedIn, and I think Michelle, he's going to chuck it into the notes, into the comments soon. So if you haven't joined already, please do that and tell us what you want us to answer, and we will put that on the agenda, and I'll find the right person to answer that question. So I think that's it. Thank you so much, and I look forward to coming back in a month.
Helen,
Thanks, Alicia. It's so great working with you.
Thank you. See you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.